Oh, well then.
All right, let's talk about the Rings of Akhaten. Is that how it's pronounced? I keep forgetting. Akhaten.
It seems like the girl sings it a bunch of times, and I'm trying to remember how she sang it.
Well, the doctor says it in the beginning. I think it's...
Is it?
It's Akhaten.
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 We will...
I think the stress is on the last syllable.
Yeah. We have to define this now so that we can just say it. What we ought to do... What we should do is we should say it in every possible way right now, and then when we're editing, if we need to refer back to the episode, we can then just insert the correct pronunciation every time we say it, and we'll have recordings of that right now.
We could also refer to the episode right now.
We could.
I've got it here. I'm going to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, you go right ahead and do that. I'll just sit quietly here.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
Hold on. Wait for it.
I'm waiting.
Akhaten.
Akhaten?
Matt Smith says Akhaten.
Akhaten. Akhaten.
Akhaten.
Akhaten.
The Rings of Akhaten.
Akhaten. Okay.
The Rings of Akhaten. Akhaten. The Rings of Akhaten.
You know I'm going to take this and make a techno beat out of it now.
Sure.
I don't think I liked it as much as last week's episode, but I really liked it. Strangely, I think it reminded me of The Beast Below.
Well, it reminded me of The Beast Below too, but I am not sure whether or not I liked it. And
Really?
I am falling on the side of I didn't like it.
Really?
I am more inclined to say that I disliked it than I am to say that I liked it.
Okay.
I watched it twice.
Uh-huh.
The first time I watched it, I didn't know whether I liked it, and then the second time didn't clarify anything for me. I didn't feel any differently about anything in it the second time. So I don't know. This may be one that I will refer back to in future years when I am older and wiser, and say definitively that it is the most genius thing that has ever happened, or worse than Fear Her. But I just don't know whether I liked it or not. I do agree, though, that it kind of reminded me of The Beast Below. Mm-hmm. Kind of reminded me of The End of the World.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of reminded me of The Phantom Menace.
Okay. I have to ask, in what way did it remind you of The Phantom Menace?
Well, it was, a lot of aliens.
Okay, yes.
Sitting around that sort of seem like personalityless and pointless and kind of uninterestingly designed. And they file into a stadium to watch something. And there's a little kid who's caught in the center of it all. And that's more or less it.
Okay. Well, all right. No, that's fair. I see that now. And now it's dropped 20 points. 20 arbitrary points that I just made up in the system that doesn't actually exist in my scale of likeness, just by the virtue of the fact that you can make those connections to Phantom Menace, which really is just a testament to how terrible the Phantom Menace is, but that's entirely not aside from the point.
It's Doctor Who, and it doesn't feel like it's not Doctor Who.
Definitely true.
There are probably some people who will look at this and say, this is not Doctor Who as I know it. I think there are probably people who will say that about any episode, and at no point did I feel that way. So there are obviously going to be some, and possibly even a lot of things about it that I like. But there are also a lot of things about the Phantom Menace that I like, and there are a lot of things about like the 2005 Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie that I like. And I often find myself when I go into something that I'm a fan of, I can watch it and even enjoy watching it because like, ooh, there's a cool thing that I like. There's a cool thing that I like. But it doesn't come together in a way that's really all that interesting or even exciting. And I think that's kind of where I fall on this one.
I totally understand that. Although I don't even really see how one could make the argument that this was not Doctor Who, because if anything, I would say that it was a safe episode. In the same way that we could compare it to other previous second episodes of A New Companion. It wasn't really all that different. I mean, I think that it had a lot of the same elements that you see in second episodes of a series, and I don't think it really broke new ground, I guess, with like with the New Companion.
Well, there's one thing about this episode that is quite different.
Oh.
The Doctor and his companion go to an alien world that has absolutely nothing to do with Earth. I think this might be the first time in New Who that they go to a planet or another place where we are not told that, like, these are future Earth colonists or that things going on here have ramifications back on Earth, which is, that was completely standard to do that in the classic series.
That's
and
true.
Russell T Davies decided that you couldn't do that because there was no way to get the viewers to care about the story if it didn't have anything to do with Earth. Now, I don't think that's quite true, but I feel like in 45 minutes, a significant portion of which is spent, well, not the first 7 or 8 minutes are in, the Doctor investigating Clara's past.
Right.
So we're left with, not that much more than a half an hour to go through this whole story in this alien culture. And I feel like that has a little bit to do with why I didn't really enjoy it all that much. Like, it was just like this society that was just there. It wasn't delved into. I don't feel like they did a very good job of sort of explaining what the deal was with this weird ceremony and the grandfather and the quote-unquote alarm clock. And
right.
I felt like they wasted... They didn't spend any time explaining that, and they just sort of had things happening.
Yeah, I guess we're meant to assume that maybe there is, because they talk about their religion being that all life originated on what I guess was, that was like a planet, I guess.
Or an asteroid or a planetoid or something.
Well, like the thing that they're orbiting, like that wasn't the sun.
Well, I think they called it a star, I don't know.
Because I have no idea what they were referencing, because that, I don't know if you can be that close. I guess that there are plenty of different suns and stars that are all different, temperatures and whatever. But I'm pretty sure that would be really close to a sun.
Well, I feel like you got to throw that entire line of thinking out, because this is set in what looks like a bunch of barren, rocky asteroids orbiting some kind of gaseous body, which is either a planet or a star, which collapses at the end of the episode.
Yeah, physics.
And they can ride a moped through what seems like it would probably be a vacuum when they're okay breathing. And I'm not objecting to any of that stuff. I'm just saying that you kind of have to throw out any kind of reasoning.
Right. Yeah.
Here.
And I likewise don't really mind it. I am just looking for something to call it. But that whole kind of idea that they were just kind of floating on stuff and there was an atmosphere or something, they can breathe just fine. That kind of whole thing, not that this is going to really mean anything to you, but it actually reminded me of, in the game World of Warcraft, which I have played in the past, this sort of dimension that you can go into called Outland, where it's kind of that sort of thing where it's just like this chunk of land that's floating in what appears to be space, and you can sort of fly in this, and you can fly anywhere, and you can just go out into the sort of space area without consequence. And I just found that very reminiscent of that, where it just seemed like, oh yeah, you can just go anywhere, and don't even worry about suffocating, because that's not an issue. You just go wherever you please, and it's fine. But yeah, I just didn't really know what this thing was that they're orbiting, and now that it's gone, why is, like, that's just okay? I mean, all right. It just seems really bizarre. But, yeah, you do have to kind of just throw that all out, because there's no way this makes sense if you try to apply, like, science to it.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of bothered me that we didn't find out, like, how they survive without...
Man, this is one of those things where I'm just fine with it.
But because the thing is, like, at the very end of the episode, the problem is solved. We see them in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
We don't see them having gone back to, congratulate everybody on, like, being alive and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor tells Clara that, oh, Doreen gave me your ring back.
Right, yeah.
And I wondered whether he was telling the truth.
Or if they all died, and he just plucked it. He plucked it off of her corpse.
Yeah. I was kind of led to wonder.
Oh my god, it's so dark. I want to believe this now, though, because I like, oh my god, that's really dark.
It doesn't really matter all that much, because we're never meant to think that it matters. There's never really given a sense that anyone's really in jeopardy. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, what's going to happen is that he's going to feed off their stories.
Well, yeah.
Would that give them amnesia? Because it doesn't seem to give the Doctor amnesia.
Right. Well, yeah.
So what exactly is the problem here? Why can't he just feed off their stories?
He just wants some stories, man.
Why does there have to be a mummy involved, too? I don't understand the mummy.
Yeah.
I don't understand why there's a mummy in the glass cage.
Yeah. Why that's necessary, why the vigil, whatever, those creepy things why those were necessary. How
now,
you even...
Were you aware that the vigil were speaking?
Yeah, I kind of heard that. That was really creepy.
Well, I didn't notice it at all on my first watch, and then on my second watch, I could just make out them saying Mary Galel. But I didn't hear anything they actually said. I didn't understand the words that were being said in the song either, even though I could catch random snippets of English words. Mm-hmm. I just spent so much of this episode just not understanding what was going on and why.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, I think that you kind of... If you want to judge Doctor Who based on first viewings, which I think is a fair way to judge an episode of any television, because, I mean, you ought to only have to watch an episode once to understand it, and I don't think it's fair to expect the viewer to do what we do, where we watch it, over and over again and then talk about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in some sense, it's a little bothersome if you ever have to rewatch something just to understand it. I mean, like, I get that sometimes, when you're watching, like, a murder mystery or something, and or I don't know, I can't tell you how many times I had to watch Ocean's 11 before I really understood the whole heist thing and how that worked. But I was very young at the time, so I chalk that up to being young. But, what am I talking about? Oh, but no, that does bother me that you would have to rewatch it just to pick up on what is arguably important. And I'm still not sure I heard everything they were saying. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, the songs that they were singing didn't really seem to have that really complicated lyrics. I mean, these were supposed to be big, important songs or whatever, and it was really just like, rest your weary head and go to sleep and rest and don't wake up.
Well, I was trying to grab onto something that I could, really, wrap my hands around and enjoy. Because I felt like so much of, like, the rest of the episode was just so slippery. Like, there was so little explanation. There wasn't even all that much drama, I didn't think, because there was only one other character other than the Doctor and Clara. There was a little girl, and there were no other real characters. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like, I mean, there was the dude who was singing. There was a whole bunch of random aliens. There was a giant jack-o'-lantern planet sun thing. But I felt like, and the thing is, I feel like my enjoyment of any Doctor Who story, new or classic, is roughly proportionate to how much I like the characters in it who are not the Doctor and his companions. Because if I think back and, like, think of what, some of my favorite stories are, I think, Blink, that has some really great guest characters. Midnight, those really great guest characters. Genesis of the Daleks, really great guest characters.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, that was just another thing that sort of put me off this episode.
Yeah.
I felt like it was so lacking in drama that I couldn't even really appreciate Matt Smith's big speech at the end.
Yeah, that was a little... I mean, it seemed like he was giving a lot of different speeches. He gave a speech to the little girl, telling her that, oh, your atoms were forged in a big star and it blew up, and then there were other stars, they blew up, and then they finally made you and
I kind of like
kings.
that.
No, I liked that. I liked that speech. I mean, I liked that speech, and then he followed it up with that other speech to the sun, star,
all the things
planet.
I have seen, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. That did nothing for me, personally.
No, it didn't really. Yeah, I don't think it was nearly as strong. And I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like he was very speechy this episode, and it was maybe too much. I mean, it works well when he's got one big speech that's like the climax of the episode, and then like in the Pandorica opens, like that's a brilliant speech where he's talking to all the alien ships in the sky. Like, you know, that was really, really awesome, and that was like the climax. Like that was it. Actually, no. When does that happen?
The Pandorica opens ones?
Yeah.
That's sort of early in the episode. That's when he's talking to, all the spaceships and stuff.
Yeah. That's right. That's not the climax, but it's
That's fairly early.
Still a very good moment. And I don't know, it seemed like this was just a little bit too much speech-wise.
Well, there's that, and I just don't feel like I even understood what was really going on and what the stakes were like. I mean, he feeds off stories. Does this mean the Doctor is going to lose all his memories? Does this mean...
Well, if I had to explain it, and I mean, I shouldn't have to, because that should be the writer's job, but let's say I'm going to explain it. What I would think is that would ordinarily kill a person, but because it's the Doctor and he's like a Time Lord and he's big and powerful, that does not kill him. It only makes him really, really tired, and he has to kind of get down on his knees and just stay there for a bit, and then he gets back up and he's fine.
Okay, well, I guess I can buy that.
That's how I explained it to myself to make it all okay.
Speaking of which, this is the second Doctor Who story in a row that involves discussion of souls and what souls are, and I feel like they kind of don't have their story straight as to what a soul is.
Right. Yeah. Maybe we should tell them that they don't know souls.
I would have to say that this is probably the first episode since Matt Smith's very first appearance at the end of time. This is the first episode where I wasn't really all that impressed with him.
Really?
And I was very impressed with Jenna Louise Coleman. I thought she was excellent in this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's some weird bits with the Doctor. Like, how could he not produce something sentimental to give to, what's her name, for the moped? Like,
Doreen.
Yes, Doreen.
I don't know. I mean, I felt kind of annoyed with him for not. I mean, he had his sonic screwdriver, and he's like, "Well, I don't want to give this up. It's useful. You get something." When he can freaking manufacture them en masse from the TARDIS console, can't he?
Right. Well, yeah. Although, and I would have been, I agree, I was annoyed as well. Although I would have been even more annoyed if he subsequently didn't use it for the rest of the episode, although he ended up using it. Oh,
God. He used it. Oh, boy, did he use it. That was another thing about this episode that really just... I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the stupid thing. And I was hoping that, they were making such a big deal about it, where twice in this episode he indicated that he didn't want to give it to Doreen. Mm-hmm. And then he uses it to hold up a door. He uses it to, create a protective shield so the Vigil can't get him. Mm-hmm. And it's like, just stop it. Stop it. And I was hoping that the thing would be gone by the end, but it wasn't. And I'm just annoyed.
Yeah, I can tell. But yeah, no, I mean, even if he didn't want to give up the sonic screwdriver, doesn't he carry around a ton of shit in his pockets? I mean,
yeah, he does. And he's wearing a bow tie that he keeps in a box underneath the TARDIS engines.
Yeah.
So you'd think that he could give that up.
Yeah, you'd think so. You really would. I mean, there's a ton of, and he was shown to have Amy's reading glasses earlier in the episode when he was checking up on
True.
Amy's parents. And it's possible that maybe he got rid of those. Not got rid of, but maybe he left them in the TARDIS or whatever. But I mean, are you telling me that Amy's reading glasses don't carry any sentimental weight? I don't know.
That's why he has them.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess, it's convenient that we be reminded that Claire's mother died, I guess. I guess that's important to be reminded of, that, oh, I've got her ring.
Well, and the thing about that, the thing about Clara's parents and the leaf as a slight negative to that, I didn't really like the way it was sort of structured into the story, where we find it out at the beginning, and it, doesn't seem to have anything to do with anything, and then it sort of comes back in at the end.
Right.
I felt like it was kind of disconnected to whatever was going on. But putting that negativity aside and stopping being Mr. Grumpy Face, I liked the idea of the leaf representing this other kind of story, which is the story of things that never happened but should have or could have.
Right.
And that sort of, being more powerful than things that were. And I feel like basically that's sort of the central idea that this episode is maybe trying to get at, or at least thinks it's trying to get at. Or I don't know, maybe it's not even a central idea because it's just like a big idea that's brought in at the end. But I thought it was a good big idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I like that we I appreciate that they explained the leaf and we didn't have to wait like 2 seasons to find out about it or whatever. That was cool, I guess. It seems like an odd kind of thing. I don't know. But it's, it's fine.
Well, it was a different kind of leaf, by the way. It was not the same leaf as was in last episode.
Oh, was it not?
Yeah, they probably just couldn't get the same leaf again. They couldn't, like, the leaf was busy.
Scheduling conflicts.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of similar to the Weeping Angels, where the Weeping Angels zap you back in time and feed off the potential days that you would have had otherwise.
Right, yeah.
I wonder if that's going to play into Clara as a character and what the whole mystery about her is.
Yeah. Well, because we don't really know how her mother died.
We don't know how her mother died, no.
Yeah, so maybe she was zapped back in time by an angel.
Could be.
I don't know. I'm kind of done with the angels, though, so I hope not.
Yeah, let's give them a rest for a while and bring them back later, much later. But
yeah.
I wonder whether with Amy it was very much like about Amy's whole character was sort of a lot of it was about like her connection with her childhood,
right?
And it even seemed like that continued to be the thing that her character was all about, even up to the very end, where it was talking about how she was becoming an adult and she was maybe outgrowing the doctor. So I wonder whether Clara is going to have like a sort of similar big thematic idea behind her, where it's like the what might have been, and that might have something to do with the explanation for her weird splinter selves or whatever.
Like she just had so much potential that like it just had to come out. Like it was like a bump in the carpet where like you try and get rid of it, but then it pops up somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe.
That kind of thing. She's a bump in the carpet is what I'm saying.
Yeah. She's probably actually just a silence plot against the doctor, like everything else.
Oh my god, I hope not.
Well, they got to come back eventually, so.
They do. Who knows when that'll happen, though.
By the way, I think I'm done saying things I didn't like about the episode.
Okay.
I think the rest of the things I have to say are things I did like.
Okay.
So,
well, actually, before we get too positive here.
Okay.
What was with the Queen's psychic abilities? Where'd those come from?
Which psychic abilities would those be?
She had like some sort of weird telekinetic ability where like she pressed her hands to her temples and then all of a sudden she like magnetized Clara to the box.
Oh yeah, that's right. I don't care about that. That's fine. I mean, she's an alien.
Okay. So if you've got weird scars on your face, you can just do telekinesis.
Well, the doctor has psychic powers, so
yeah, but I don't know. It was weird to me that like she never mentioned that she had these abilities. This was never foreshadowed in any meaningful way. She was on the run from her responsibilities earlier in the episode, and she didn't think to use those crazy psychic abilities to aid in her escape. I mean, she was running away from Clara at one point. She could have done it then and just been like, see ya. I don't know.
It probably would have made more sense if instead of just having telekinesis, she had like some kind of magic song that did it.
Yeah. Because magic songs are her bit.
Yeah.
I think that would have been better. I think they could have really run with this magic song thingy.
I liked all the classic Doctor Who references.
Those went over my head.
Well, I mean, there were at least a few, such as, the my granddaughter thing, and...
Now, was that ever an actual, like, episode?
No, it wasn't.
I wouldn't have thought so, but yeah, I mean, I liked seeing Susan be referenced to. That was pretty nifty.
Yeah, it is. It's suggested in the First Doctor era that they've had quite a few journeys before picking up Ian and Barbara on Earth. So that would presumably be that. But also, it's kind of interesting that he says to Clara, "We never walk away."
Right.
Because the First Doctor would always try, well, not always, but like early First Doctor stuff, he would always try to get away because he didn't have any, moral investment in what was going on. He just didn't care. So basically, the TARDIS would always be inaccessible or broken or something, right. And he would be forced to participate in a grand adventure, but he would always want to walk away.
Right.
So, I just thought that was...
That is interesting. Maybe he just decided it was time to grow up.
Mm-hmm. And the speech at the end where he's talking about all of his memories. Some of that stuff was classic, and some of it was other. Some of it was new. I don't really remember all of them because I didn't take notes or anything. But
right.
But yeah,
it was cool.
Other things I liked about this episode. It shouldn't be this hard. No, yeah, I mean, mainly I just thought it was a great episode for Clara as a character. I liked the whole thing at the end where she kind of gets a little annoyed at the Doctor for the Doctor being all secretive about his reasons for following her around and checking out her childhood. Yeah. And I hope that kind of continues, because he did some kind of sketchy stuff where he wasn't telling Amy that she was pregnant, things like that. And that was never really raised as a concern. So it'd be kind of cool if, he was sort of, taken down a peg for that.
Yeah. That would be nice. But yeah, no, I liked as you mentioned, I really liked Clara in this episode. I thought it was really good. I liked her interacting with the Queen. I thought that was just all really cool. And I liked, I liked seeing Clara kind of do her own thing for a bit. And I really like Clara so far, and I hope it continues. I hope I continue to like her.
Me too. And I also hope that the next episode by Neil Cross, the next episode written by him, is one that I like a bit more, because he's writing the one in 2 weeks' time.
That's interesting. That was like Chris Chibnall in the first half.
Yeah, and Mark Gatiss is doing 2 as well.
Oh, is he?
The latter half. He's doing
right.
He's doing next week's, and he's also doing The Crimson Horror, which I think might be the third to last. I don't know, but it's later in the season.
Huh.
To be perfectly honest, this episode was out of all 8 episodes, 7 of which we have some detail about.
Right.
This was the one I was least excited about. So I am fine with a run of 8 episodes of Doctor Who having one episode that I do not like.
Okay. Yeah, certainly. So this is your black spot.
This is my Curse of the Black Spot, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
It is also a black spot on an otherwise shining golden thing.
Multiple layers to this.
And, even I would even go so far as to say that the first half of the series, every episode was mostly positive. With the possible exception of The Power of Three.
Yeah.
Which starts off so well and then falls so hard.
Yes, that's true. I don't know. I continue to dislike dinosaurs on a spaceship.
Oh, well.
And I'm standing by that.
I continue to love it. So, there we are.
There we are.
But I was rewatching The Power of Three recently, and it's just so painful. It's just so awful. Yeah. It just gets so awful so quickly. And
yeah. Well, yeah. The thing about The Power of Three is that ending is so bad. I have to wonder if the stuff that's referenced at the end isn't gonna somehow be significant, the tally. I wonder if that's gonna come back in some capacity, because I feel like it. Because I don't know why we're talking about The Power of Three, but it just seems like that ending, because I've rewatched that episode as well, and that ending to me almost seems like the ending of The Lodger, where it's it's this, someone's building a TARDIS, and then it disappears, and then it reappears in Series 6, and that is something that I just got that kind of a vibe from it, that it was somehow important. That the tally was somehow important.
I feel like that's the vibe it was trying to create.
So as a red herring.
No. I mean, I felt like that the ending of that episode was just so lacking in any kind of actual drama or conflict that they tried to save it by just throwing in random things like, the Shakri are from a Time Lord legend that is spoken in whispers to the babes of Gallifrey, and they speak of the tally, the tally, and like I feel like that's just put in there to attempt to add some kind of something to that ending.
Definitely. No, it definitely feels kind of manufactured, but in such a way that I hope it is somehow relevant, and if it isn't, then I will once again just be mad. Which, it's entirely possible that I've got a lot of anger in my future.
I was kind of surprised when it ended with her leaving the TARDIS.
Yeah. Is that going to be a thing now? Like,
I kind of liked it with Amy and Rory, how they sort of eventually brought it to that point.
Right.
But I was kind of hoping that this would just be a complete, back to the way it was. A companion joins the Doctor and goes traveling with him until...
Right.
And sometimes they visit home, but they don't, like...
Right.
That's they live in the TARDIS. That's kind of what I was hoping for.
Maybe Clara just has commitment issues. She's taking it like one date at a time.
Well, or maybe the Doctor just leaves without her and goes and finds a different Clara in the next episode.
Could be.
Because I had a theory that I think I mentioned back in The Snowman that I wondered whether it was just going to be a different Clara every single episode.
Right.
Where she'll die at the end.
Right.
So, I don't know. Obviously, she didn't die at the end of this. She didn't die at the end of Bells of St. John.
Well, that we know of, once again. She could step out of the TARDIS and, like, fall off a cliff.
Right, exactly. I also found it kind of strange that she said that, I don't know if this means anything, but she said that her home looked different. And the Doctor insisted that it shouldn't.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, that was kind of like just like a passing sort of thing that is true. I had thought of that and I sort of dismissed it, but yeah. That's very interesting because it's not like anything that they did on that trip should have affected present-day Earth that we know of. Unless life really did originate on that planet, and by destroying it... No, that doesn't even make sense. I don't know.
Probably not.
Okay.
Oh, you know what my favorite line of dialogue was from this episode?
Oh, what?
My favorite line has to have been when Clara... My favorite exchange, I guess you might say. When Clara says, if we're traveling through time, then time must be made of something like jam is made of strawberries. And the Doctor says... No, not strawberries. That would be unacceptable. And, like, you kind of expect him to come back to that, like, with, like, it's more like raspberries or something like that. But no, he doesn't come back with that, like, witty punchline. He just leaves it at that.
Right. Yeah, I like that, too. That was quite enjoyable. But yeah, no, that was a good line. Yeah, this episode didn't have as many good lines, but that was definitely up there.
Christopher Eccleston has announced that, well, no, it isn't Christopher Eccleston. I think it's, the BBC put out a statement saying that Christopher Eccleston had met with Stephen Moffat to discuss the 50th anniversary, but ultimately decided not to sign on.
Right. I had heard that.
Right.
Which is interesting. I mean, I was looking forward to potentially seeing Christopher Eccleston again, and I'm a little disappointed, because, I think that I think, as we discussed, I think he could have done a lot more, and I would have loved to see what he would do with more time as the Ninth Doctor. So I'm a little disappointed, and I guess I'm further disappointed that we won't get to see anything more from him.
Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised that he even was in talks.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised to get that sort of middle ground answer. I'd think either he'd, cross his arms and say, no way, and then not even talk to them, or that he'd, want to come back, but... It kind of makes it even worse that we were apparently very close, or at least close enough that he was seriously considering it.
Yeah.
But decided not to. And I'm sure that there will always be much speculation as to what exactly went on until 20 years from now, someone writes a book about it.
Well, yeah. It is weird that I guess I'm always kind of bothered a little bit by this sort of news, because that means that there is room in the 50th anniversary's plot to support the Ninth Doctor somewhere, and I'll always be wondering what the story would have been like had Christopher Eccleston signed on.
Well, Doctor Who Online, they mentioned in their write-up that, according to rumors, and there was no source for this rumor. There was no they just said according to rumors, which just seemed a little fishy to me. The part that Christopher Eccleston turned down, they just sort of said okay, and went around and offered it to Paul McGann, which is vaguely plausible.
Yeah. Well,
because you'd think any part Christopher Eccleston could do. I mean, it's the Doctor, and Paul McGann, that's the same character,
right?
So
as long as it doesn't matter about the whole Last of the Time Lords thing, which presumably Paul McGann's Doctor would have never had to confront. Although maybe
we don't really know who fought in the Time War, whether it was the Eighth Doctor, the Ninth Doctor, or both.
Yeah, and that's entirely possible. And I like that that's kind of ambiguous, and maybe that'll even be explored. But yeah,
the fact that was just mentioned on Doctor Who Online as a quote-unquote rumor without any kind of, support from it, like where it might come from or who was saying it or...
Right.
Yeah, I would take that with a grain of salt, but...
Right.
It's also possible that they were talking to both Christopher Eccleston and Paul McGann, and Christopher Eccleston said no, so they said, all right, we'll just, increase Paul McGann's role.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, obviously.
Right. And actually, just the idea, though, that we would see more of Paul McGann, that excites me way more than Christopher Eccleston, because, I actually just this weekend rewatched the Eighth Doctor TV movie, and I don't know, just thinking about and I don't know, just the idea of maybe seeing him again would just, I don't know, that just is really exciting to me.
Yeah, because he never really got a fair shot.
No, right, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I've liked him in the audio dramas, and that's been really cool. But just to see him actually on TV as the Eighth Doctor again would be very cool.
The even that movie, the 1996 TV movie was like a quarter of it, or maybe even more, was Sylvester McCoy.
Right.
Which I mean, Sylvester McCoy is quite good in it, I think. But that sort of takes away from even more from Paul McGann's limited opportunity to wow us as the Doctor. And I feel like that's something that they probably learned from when doing the new series. Russell T Davies probably decided, it didn't really work out that well to have Sylvester McCoy come back and, be on screen for 20 minutes before Paul McGann shows up, so we're not going to make the same mistake again.
Right. Yeah, and I like how the Ninth Doctor first appears, and actually, it's implied in Rose, I think, that that takes place very shortly after he regenerated.
It does seem to be.
Because he's, checking out his appearance.
Yeah, he checks himself out in the mirror.
Right.
But you don't have to read that way, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like it's there for you if you want to read it that way, but you can also reject it.
Right.
Like so many things in Doctor Who.
Of course.
The other bit of 50th anniversary news is that the Zygons are coming back.
I had heard of them.
Now, did you ever see Terror of the Zygons?
No, I did not.
I actually just watched it this weekend.
Well, there you go.
It was already in my schedule because I'm doing the whole, everything in order
right
thing. And Terror of the Zygons was already the very next thing for me to watch.
Well, there you go.
The Zygons are neat. And they are David Tennant's favorite Doctor Who monster. And he never got to face them during his run as the 10th Doctor. So it could be that he demanded Zygons in return for his...
Could be. That's interesting. And also, what is it about the Zygons that makes them so special? I mean, is there a reason that they would be a person's favorite?
Well, I think one thing is that the Zygon... I don't know, a lot of people just really like the design, and I think it's a pretty cool design.
Oh, yeah?
The story that they appear in, Terror of the Zygons, even though they were only ever in one story, it's just a really solid story that a lot of people like. Oh. It's got, the Fourth Doctor and the Brigadier in it. It's got a lot of, exterior location filming. It's got the Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, well, who wouldn't like that?
Exactly. And it's set in Scotland. And it's just... Terror of the Zygons is just, a really fun one that a lot of people just really like. And so the Zygons have sort of remained popular despite only appearing once.
That's interesting. And it's cool they're coming back.
But one of the most interesting things about that, I think, is the fact that Zygons, one of their main sort of modus operandi is the use of body print technology, which essentially means they kidnap people, stick them in machines and keep them alive and then take on their form.
Ah.
And given that the 10th Doctor and Rose are coming back, I wonder whether it's even really going to be them at all.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Or it could be that, like, the 10th Doctor and Rose will be in the story, but Matt Smith and Jenna Louise Coleman will never encounter them. They will only encounter the Zygon duplicates.
That's interesting. That would also allow them to bring back pretty much anyone they want.
Well, I mean, anyone with the actor will come back.
Right. And that could even possibly, if they want to get some older doctors, that might even explain like why they look different or older, is because maybe some sort of, I don't know, malfunction. I don't know. I'm not writing. Oh, yeah. I'm not writing the 50th, but
that'd
if I were,
actually be great. Like, say the Zygons kidnap Matt Smith and put Matt Smith in the body print machine, and out pops like an older Colin Baker.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
they could totally work that in. And in fact, I'm going to be mad now if it's not in there.
Well, Sylvester McCoy has said in an interview that none of the 20th Century Doctors have been approached by the BBC, which would include Paul McGann.
Oh, right, yeah.
But he could be lying. It could just be that everyone but him has been approached, and he doesn't know about it.
Poor Sylvester McCoy. Yeah, I mean, I would think... Well, I don't know. I guess if we know that David Tennant's coming back, I guess it wouldn't be that they were sworn to secrecy. Unless they are, and because it's a big surprise or something. Or, I don't know. I mean, I guess I have to wonder, like, because they seem to be pretty early on in the stages of... Well, I guess they have a script if
they're filming.
Oh, they're filming. Well, okay then. I guess never mind then. But what I was going to say was I don't know at what point you need to start casting like cameos. So it could just be that they're going to insert some classic Doctors in there somehow, and they'll have like a brief cameo appearance with like a line or two, which would be enough for me. You know, I think that just by itself would be cool.
Well, if someone is going to be appearing in exterior location filming, then it's impossible to keep that a secret.
Well, yeah,
because people will stalk the production team. But if someone's appearing on an interior set, then that's a different story, and you can probably keep that entirely secret.
Yeah, you probably can. Man, I just really hope Paul McGann is in this. I know I have no reason to think that he is, but I just really want him in there now.
I think I'll be fine with it.
No,
even if it's just Matt Smith and David Tennant.
Yeah.
I think even that would be fine. David Tennant is enough of an added bonus.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, no. And I think that's, I mean, you know, I guess I just want some, because I mean, you know, it's the 50th anniversary, so I feel like it ought to encompass everything about Doctor Who. I mean, obviously it can't, but it would be nice to have a more classic Doctor that maybe most of the fans, or maybe some of the fans of the new series, or the new Who, have not really seen.
Even companions, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, William Russell and Carol Ann Ford, who were both part of the original cast.
Right.
They're still around. I don't know how healthy William Russell is at this point.
Oh.
Because he's kind of, he's up in his 80s. He does some audio work for Big Finish, but I don't know if he would be up to appearing on screen.
Right.
Who knows? But, you know, you got plenty of people who are still, you know, healthy and active and could presumably appear if called upon to do so.
And I think that would be neat. But yeah, I'll be happy with whatever the BBC is up for doing.
Unless it's terrible.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if it's terrible, I'm gonna hate it. And I will.
If it's terrible, I might still like it, though.
That's true, because they reach that sort of delicate threshold where, like, if you go just far enough that in terribleness that it's actually really just amazing. But then, once again, you can go so terrible that it's just actually terrible.
I think there's a decent argument to be made that The Five Doctors was terrible, in that it didn't really have that much of a coherent plot.
Huh.
It was just like a nonsensical, strung together series of, you know, every actor they could manage coming together, and which even if you could make that argument that it was terrible, I mean, I still absolutely love it.
Well, there you go. Yeah, no, and I've never seen The Five Doctors, but...
Really?
I've never seen... No! Nor have I ever seen, what is it, The Two Doctors, or...
There's the two Doctors and the Three Doctors.
Right, I've never seen any multiple Doctor...
Well, there's a reference to the Three Doctors in the Rings of Akhaten.
Is there? Is that the thing with his granddaughter?
No, it's a thing where he says that he has walked in a universe where the laws of physics were defined by a madman.
Ah.
That happens in the Three Doctors.
Interesting.
This is something that it has nothing to do with this episode in particular. In fact, it has more to do with the Bells of St. John.
Okay.
But I have a theory about the Doctor's name.
Oh, okay.
And you might have seen I actually tweeted about it. Or maybe you didn't.
I don't think I did.
But you know how like the Doctor's name is going to be a big thing?
Yes.
Because of the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is Doctor Who.
Right.
My theory about the Doctor's name is that his name is Doctor Who.
Oh, I did see that tweet. Yes. You know, that would be funny. That would be funny for obvious reasons. It would also be funny because the Doctor was credited as Doctor Who in the show for a long time. In fact, almost the entire time, right? Except for the 10th Doctor, who insisted that it be changed to the Doctor.
Oh, well, I think it went back and forth a few times.
Okay.
But yeah, it was indeed. Chris Eccleston at least was credited as Doctor Who, and then David Tennant asked that it be changed. But in any case, like the press has always called him Doctor Who. They've always said like Matt Smith currently plays Doctor Who on the show of the same name. Even members of the production team have called him Doctor Who. And, you know, there's an episode called Doctor Who and the Silurians.
Right.
Doctor Who and the Silurians. Mm-hmm. There's an episode, there's a Hartnell episode called The Death of Doctor Who.
Yes.
But anyhow, my theory is that we don't really know why the Doctor can't go by his name. But in some sense, it seems to be like forbidden or something. But my theory is that his name is actually Doctor Who, and it's completely forbidden such that no one can ever use it without there being dire consequences. But there's a loophole where the English words doctor and who can be used because that's not his name. Those are just words in the English language. So first of all, that's why he likes Earth so much. And second of all, that's why in the Bells of St. John, he gets so... Well, first, in Asylum of the Daleks, he gets really excited by hearing the Daleks say Doctor Who.
Yes.
And basically, that's my theory is that is why he is so excited by hearing the English language two-word sentence, Doctor Who, because it is his name, and that's the only way he can hear it.
That would be really... That is something that I would absolutely suspect to be true. Like, that seems like an actual thing. I'm totally on board for that, and I really hope that's the case.
Well, I mean, if I don't know if Moffat actually plans to reveal the Doctor's name, but if the Doctor's name is revealed, then I think it could only be Doctor Who. Like, because what else is it going to be?
Right, exactly. Like Bob?
Joe?
Yeah, exactly. You just can't do that. That'd be stupid. Yeah, it would almost have to be. How could it be anything else? I mean, because the name itself would have to be significant somehow.
Right.
I mean, it would just have to be. Otherwise, it's just so anticlimactic.
Right, and obviously it's entirely possible that it's not Doctor Who, but Moffat will keep it unrevealed.
Yeah, and that's entirely possible.
My guess is really that Moffat's not going to reveal the name, but he is going to, reveal maybe a little bit more about what the circumstances surrounding the name are.
Right. Yeah.
But in any case, the Doctor Who name is now my official headcanon for the Doctor.
That's pretty great. But yeah, it either has to be that or not reveal it at all. Because, I mean, just what else are you gonna do? It's like the thing in the suitcase in Pulp Fiction.
Right.
And maybe that is the Doctor's name. Is an orange glow.
It's completely unpronounceable by any language.
Yes. But yes. Yeah, no. I would prefer it not be revealed or be revealed to be something like that.
It's just revealed to be Dr. What?
Yes. Precisely.